So a few days ago, I gave some speculation on what I thought this guy's kit was going to be, since they announced it a bit before they actually released him in the game and they showed us his NP. And I was like, you know what? It looks like he's going to be a single target. And we've already got some really strong single target Lancers. So it's not like this guy has to be super exceptional or anything. And then Lasengel apparently just saw that and they were like, you know what? No, we're going to make this guy stupid dummy good. I mean, this guy has one of the best well-rounded kits on just a DPS in general. The guy's basically got everything. And the icing on the cake is that instead of giving him like a special damage mod or some weird gimmick to like stack his damage or something, they just gave him the Arash and Shen Gong effect on his NP, where you just do more damage. This guy is really dummy good. And pair that with the fact that he's Buster, so he has really good synergy with people like, say, Himiko and Morgan, who can raise that up, raise his overcharge level to really increase that overcharge effect. This guy is just very, very nuts. He is so much fun to use. I mean, you've already seen some of the memes where like people are comparing him with like Broly because of how his thing looks. But the guy does kind of feel like that. He just runs in there and just smacks people for so much damage. And his crits are also really good. They get stronger as the fight goes on. So we're going to talk about this guy in today's video. He's definitely worth pulling for. Just keep in mind, we're probably going to get a part 2 banner. And I think some of you guys, if you've been on Twitter, have seen who that other servant may potentially be. But before we actually go ahead and start getting into this video, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe for that daily FGO content, where your boy's going to make sure that you are informed on the goings-on on both games, both NA and JP. Also, if you want to see me play FGO Live, I do that every weekday over on my Twitch, which is linked down in the description down below. But with all that being said, I'm super gassed. I'm sure you guys can tell. I want to talk about this guy because he's so good. Let's just start off by talking about his hits. His card setup is actually exactly what you would expect a Buster Lancer to have. He's got the double quick, double Buster card setup, nothing too special there. But his NP charge is actually quite high at 0.72%. The 3-hit arts card, especially because this guy does want to be a crit servant, is going to really hit whenever you do get crits on that for massive NP refund. But also, because he's got 4 hits on those quick cards and 0.72% NP gain, you're not going to get 0 NP back whenever you do crit on those quick cards. They will be, not like fundamental, but they will contribute to your overall NP refunding abilities on this guy. And so I really do like how that's kind of built, especially because, you know, he's not going to be a jack or anything, but with 12.3% star gen and again nice high hits on those quick cards, he should be able to gen a decent bit of stars for himself, especially with how some of his skills and abilities work, which we'll get into in just a second. One thing I also would like to highlight is that he does have a passive skill that makes him fully immune to poison. So if we ever get a boss fight where there's a huge poison niche and it's really, really annoying to deal with, I don't know, we get some really crazy Locusta boss fight in the future. If that ever happens, then bring this guy, because this guy will just auto be immune to all of that poison. And that's just kind of a nice little gimmick to have. It's not the most broken thing on the planet, but whenever a servant is, say, immune to burn or immune to curse or immune to poison, it's really nice because you can bring them to some of these fights and kind of not have to worry about one aspect of that challenge quest. So that is just a nice thing that he's got. Don't forget about it. But with all that being said, let's start moving into some of his skills, because these skills are chocked full of very, very strong effects. Looking at skill 1, you can see that this already has some very strong effects already on this skill. You have a 3-turn Guts that's on a 6-turn cooldown, meaning the uptime for this is going to be about half and half. So that's very, very nice for something like a Guts to keep this guy ensured that he should be able to stay alive in some of these very hard fights. The battery is very nice for both farming and for being in more difficult content, because for one, it's just immediate access to NP, which is always going to be good in some of those more difficult fights where you want to spam your NP and take out the boss. But can also be kind of good in some of those weird Castoria setups where you need to have a guy that can charge their own NP plus the 60 that Castoria is going to give him. So if you have like some starting charge or you've unlocked his pen skill, you can use him as a wave clear for some of these bigger guys, especially because he just does a lot of really good free damage. But on top of that as well, if there's like a 1-1-1 node, you can actually use him as a Buster Looper for like those single target stages, because he does have a 30% battery. Those aren't all that frequent. They're not really super common that you're going to be encountering those, but it is a nice thing that he can cover, right? It just gives him a little bit of extra value as a servant. And then finally, if being just flat out immune to poison debuffs wasn't enough, he also has a way to cleanse all of his own debuffs on a skill, which again, just makes this a nice intro to the servant. It gives him good survivability as well as a pretty decent battery and a debuff cleansing ability. So just overall a very, very strong open to the servant. Then we move over to his second skill. This is just kind of like a good damaging skill that you always want to have up as often as possible, because it's just going to give him a 30% buster buff for 3 turns, 30% crit damage for 3 turns, and it's going to bomb 15 stars on a 6-turn cooldown. Again, you just kind of want this up all the time in general, just because the crit damage are going to make his face cards hit a lot harder, and then the buster damage is going to help for his buster crits and for his own NP. Just a good thing to always have up, just a nice offensive skill. The third skill is where things get a little bit interesting. Now, I really love it when servants do stuff like this. One of the first that I really took note of them doing something along these lines was the Dioscuri twins, where their quick and arts cards also can double up on doing the other's job, and that's kind of what he's doing right here. So he's giving himself a 30% attack buff for 3 turns. That in and of itself is very strong, because that 30% attack buff is going to multiply into that 30% buster buff to give him some good damage, and you want to have your multiplicative buffs. But it's going to give on-attack buffs to both his quick and his buster cards. And so the quick cards, every time you use them, he's going to accumulate 10% crit damage for 3 turns, and whenever he attacks with his buster cards, he's going to drop 5 stars. Meaning his buster cards also kind of become quick cards, and the quick cards start supporting all of the cards by providing even more damage, and I just absolutely love when servants do this. Also keep in mind that all of his skills are on a nice 6-turn cooldown, so his cooldowns aren't even that insane. There's nothing really with the skills that I would really change. I think everything there is just nice, good effects, good survivability, a nice battery, debuff cleansing as a bonus, multiplicative buffs, crit damage, and the ability to build up as well. They're all just very nice things. And I mean, he also can generate stars over time by kind of using his buster cards over the course of 3 turns, but he can also get an immediate access to stars with the 2nd turn. So just really, really nice stuff that this guy's got going for him on all of his skills. But then his NP is just the icing on the cake, because all of these effects are super nice. Because like someone like Canis, he's actually going to stack crit damage 50% for 3 turns, which is really nice, because you start firing some of these NPs. This is just 50, then 100, then 150 just off of his NP alone. If he can do 3 NPs back to back to back, not counting the crit damage he's also got on skill 3 and 2. But then he's also removing an enemy's buffs whenever he attacks them with the NP, and it does proc first. So very similarly to, say, someone like Shiro Amakusa, where it's really hard for you to dodge this guy's really hard-hitting hits because he's going to remove all of your defensive options. Now, again, this does get stopped if they have, say, a unremovable dodge for like 3 turns, or a invincibility buff that you can't remove. Stuff like that will stop it, but for the most part, it's going to be very strong, because it's also going to remove offensive buffs. So if the enemy's attack is getting out of hand, or they're doing a lot of crits, you can just keep yeeting that and keep suppressing the enemy by taking away their stuff. Very strong ability. And then over here on the overcharge, you can see he has the Arash and the Chen Gong effect. You can see that it starts to building up really, really quickly. And the nice thing is, he's a buster servant, so people like Himiko that can give you 2 stages, or Morgan who can give you 1 on her NP, are going to absolutely love this dude by massively gassing up his damage. And it's also like basically having special damage mod against everyone, because it's just more raw damage. It's just going to be him hitting really, really, really hard, but not needing to be able to fight someone specific for it, right? Like, he doesn't have to fight Divines, or he doesn't have to fight Brynhilder's Beloved. He just gets the free damage for free damage, which again has him very high up on the tier list when it comes to damage. Like, he does just hit really, really hard. He's up there with some of the best of them. And the nice thing is, it's free. You know, you can just do it against everybody. And if you want to take advantage of it with like all of the other, you know, buster supports that I mentioned, like Morgan and Himiko, or even something like Demonic Bodhisattva, you can really start taking advantage of that massive damage he's able to accrue with those overcharges. And it's not even that hard to do. Again, Morgan just gives it to him on an NP, right? Like, it's just very easy to do. You don't have to like do a whole lot of setup. So yeah, this guy looks really, really, really strong. I'm very happy that they came out swinging with this guy, because there's nothing that I have to complain about. I think this guy is constructed perfectly. I think he is a very strong servant. He's a very strong option if you do want to summon for him. But if you're interested in some of the other Ordeal Call servants, you might want to wait till like maybe one of the last days of the banner leaves to kind of see if they drop a second banner or something. But if you don't really care about all that, then summon away, because this guy is definitely really, really strong. The only other concern I would have is that Anniversary on JP is about a month away, so you may want to hold your Saint Quartz for that, as Anniversary servants are generally pretty strong. People like Scotty and Castoria, Kolyanskaya pretty much changed the way we play the game every time they release. But then again, we do have some duds like Da Vinci and Sherlock that nobody ever uses. So it kind of depends if you want to roll the dice on that one. Me, personally, I'm going to be waiting for Anniversary because I'm planning on them dropping somebody really busted like potentially Olga. So let's see if that actually happens. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day and good luck if you decide to roll for this guy.